1-minute warning.
All right, let's go ahead and call this Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order for Tuesday, June 6, 2023. First thing before we get into roll call, I'd like to welcome our two new commissioners, Commissioner Charles Hillis and Commissioner Lewis Green. Welcome aboard. Excited to have you. Next thing will be roll call, please.
Commissioner Richards,
Here.
Alderperson Denham. Here. Commissioner Green,
Here.
Commissioner Hillis,
Here.
Chairperson O'Day,
Here.
Commissioner Martinoski,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Groman,
Here.
Commissioner Dieger,
Here.
Commissioner Gore.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Nikki. All right, next item on the agenda is the public comment. At this time, we'd like to invite anyone from the public to come up and speak on anything outside of our regular agenda items. As stated in the rules of the Planning Commission, the chairman may establish a time limit of 5 minutes for each person during public comment. We're going to go ahead and do that for tonight. I'd also like to state that during the public comment portion, if there are multiple people speaking on the same topic with the same information, that we request that you try to designate one person within your group for that topic. That way we're not having to repeat everything over and over again. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on an item outside of our regular agenda? No? Okay. Then we'll move forward to the next item on the agenda, which is the irregular agenda, approval of the minutes for the May 2nd, 2023 regular meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, first by Commissioner Groman, second by Commissioner Dieger. Any questions, comments by any commissioners? None? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Alderperson Denham,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, Commissioner Hillis,
Yes.
Chairperson O'Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinoski,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Groman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dieger,
Yes.
Commissioner Gore.
Yes.
9 votes yea, 0 nay. Motion carried.
Great. All right, the next item on the agenda is postponed from the previous agenda from May. It's election of chairperson and vice chairperson for the commission for a one-year term. We'll start with the chairperson first and then go to the vice chairperson. I would accept nominations to the chairperson position for planning and zoning.
Mr. Chair, I nominate Gary Groman for chairperson.
Okay.
Chair, I'd like to nominate Chuck O'Day.
Okay. Gary, I assume you accept?
Yes.
Okay, as do I. Okay, what we're going to do is everybody's got a little note card in front of you. You just write your person on the ballot and sit it up here at top, fold it over, and then Nikki or Jennifer's going to come by and pick them up for us.
Thank you.
Okay, the votes have been tallied. We have 5 votes for Gary Groman, 4 votes for Chuck O'Day. Gary Groman will serve as chairperson of the Planning Commission for the 2023 to 2024 term. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Commissioner Groman. I guess we'll go ahead and do the vice chair and then hand over to you for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
I nominate Rick
Commissioner Dieger?
Yeager.
Okay. Any other nominations for vice chair? Okay. Don't know that we necessarily need to take a vote, but
We could do a roll call vote.
let's do a roll call vote.
So for Rick Dieger, for vice chairperson, Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Alderperson Denham,
yes,
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Hills,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinowski,
Yes.
Chairperson Groman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dieger,
Abstain.
Commissioner Gore.
Yes.
Okay, so Rick Dieger will serve as vice chairperson of the Planning Commission for the 2023-2024 term. Congratulations.
Probably tonight, yeah. Unless you want the center seat, you're more than welcome to have it.
What do I need the center seat? Could have trouble finding this one. First item on our agenda is public hearing request for final subdivision plat for Stillwood East, Branson, Missouri. Can I get a motion to bring this item to the table?
So moved.
second,
Moved by Commissioner O'Day and seconded by Commissioner Denham. Would the staff like to provide additional information on this item?
Hi, Chairman. Yes, this is Mark Calusi speaking, the Director of Planning and Development. So would like to provide a staff report on this particular item, so thank you for allowing me to do so. This would actually be a supplement to what we looked at last month, where we looked at the preliminary plat for Stillwood East. It's, again, the same address at 100 Lake Hills Drive, same applicant, which would be Todd Chandler at Great River Engineering on behalf of the landowner, KC Hospitality of Branson, Inc. This particular property is located within the high-density residential district of the zoning ordinance. And this is the applicant's request to seek approval on this particular final plat. This location, as you see, right off of the Branson Hills Parkway in the northern portion of the city. This is a closer image of that off of Lake Hills Drive. And as was made known at the previous meeting, this particular item had been mailed to all the surrounding property owners within the designated 185-foot buffer around the particular property to be able to make comment at this particular meeting. To make further clarification on why we're looking at a final plan and supplement to the the preliminary plat, which you had looked at last month, this is actually looking at a further iteration of where this particular plan sits. It would be important for me to highlight that in most circumstances, we would need to have a public works elements completed by this particular time. This particular property has all of the public works elements on private ownership. The one key piece, and I will speak to in a moment, would be the access to this particular property, which I'll speak to in a moment, which we had reviewed prior to this particular meeting. But it is to move forward, to allow the final plat to move forward. All appropriate fees were paid, allowing this to be able to be put on today's meeting agenda. So upon approval, should you choose to approve this to applicant, we need to be able to provide certain prints to be able to put this particular plan before the Board of Aldermen and ultimately recorded. As I had mentioned before, we do need to look at the public works elements. We look at utilities, we look at access, we look at a variety of key elements when we're reviewing any particular plan. And as you can see on this particular diagram, we are looking at, the public sewer lines. You can highlight in the green lines beside it. There will be ultimately a sewer, private sewer extension to this particular plat, eventually to provide future needs for sewer. This particular property, as I mentioned at the beginning, is within the high-density residential district of the zoning ordinance, and it proposes to stay and remain within that district. The existing land use is currently vacant, and as presented, it's kind of hard to see. I do apologize for that, but one thing you will see in principle that would be different than the preliminary plat that was submitted is it does provide further clarification on the private sewer line extension to the particular property. This was all elements that was highlighted by staff to be able to need to be taken care of prior to final plat being considered for approval. The other piece, again, was clarification to the access for this particular drive. As I had mentioned with the preliminary plat, it remains the same, that the Lake Hills Drive is actually located physically on this particular property, and access will be principally via Lake Hills Drive and not via the Branson Hills Parkway. And you will see a series of different orthographic images of this. This is looking from the north, looking southward. This is looking from the west, eastward, looking from the south, northward, which would be common to see on any kind of mapping of the city. And this would be a view from the east, looking westward. When we look at any particular plan for consideration, we look at the existing land use conditions. This particular property is a vacant property on undeveloped land, and we look at how that fits within the community plan. This community plan for the city is the Community Plan 2030, and the land use for this area was considered low-density residential, but yet it does provide what would be considered amenity of choice for the surrounding areas and provide opportunities for additional residential development in an area that would potentially need additional. And as I mentioned, I would highlight this later. I'm happy to say this was something that was highlighted to the applicant prior to this plan being on this agenda, was that staff was looking at the improvement to the access to this particular property. Lake Hills Drive is considered a private drive. It will continue to remain under private improvements and private maintenance. But in order to bring it to city standard, the final top lift of this wear course was added to Lake Hills Drive. These are pictures that were as of yesterday. So this is something that is fairly new to the commission. Probably haven't seen these pictures yet, but this is in, and engineering staff has had an opportunity to take a look at this particular improvement. So that would resolve the key issue with regards to access to this particular property. And because not only was sewer with regards to providing information to get utilities to this plat, but also to provide access, staff is ultimately recommending approval of this particular plan. That's all I have on this particular item.
Is that road now, can the city accept that road now? Does that road meet our city standards?
That would be something that would obviously have to go through the proper procedures to do that, and we would want to make sure. So, and again, it would have to, because it was not at city standard prior to the final plat being submitted, it was needed to be brought to this final condition to meet city standards. So, ultimately, assuming that everything was in place as required by the code, that could be a possibility should they go through the proper steps to do so.
Thanks, Matt. Any other commissioners have anything they want to?
So just to clarify, it's currently a private road.
Correct.
It's not a city road.
Correct.
Do they have any intentions of converting it from a private road over to a city road? I don't.
The applicant has not made that known to us, and then nothing has officially been submitted to do that.
That's what I thought. Okay. Thank you.
the applicant owns the road, right? The road.
Well, to provide additional further clarification, the road is actually on this property. However, there are two other developments that actually have a right of access or an access easement to cross this particular drive. The condominium development just to the south, as well as the development to the west, both have access to Lake Hills Drive, and they both have their own individual access easements. So technically, by right of the easement, they all have access to it and need to share in the maintenance of it, but technically, ownership of it truly is this particular property owner.
Okay, forgive me, I'm catching up.
But it is actually a unique circumstance, so
But-
we don't see a lot of that in the city.
Because I think you said that it's private maintenance, right?
Correct.
Who maintains it now?
So the right-of-way easements actually dictate that it is all the users of this particular drive. So it would be the combination between the three main developments in this particular area. So not developments, but owners, the condominium associations, as well as this particular land owner.
How many condominium associations are there?
Two.
Two. So the maintenance is gonna be shared by those two and the new development,
Correct.
is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Chair? Well, my first question would be for Director Colossi. This is just recent, the repaving or the final lift of asphalt that's
Correct.
just been completed. So does the work that has just been done, does that meet city requirements, city code?
Well, actually, it was actually built in, based on the applicant. It was designed to meet the city standard, and it was paved to that standard. Engineering had taken a look at that. So the assumption is because it was designed that way, that it does meet city standard.
Okay.
The only reason I can't give you a more affirmative answer than that is that, certainly there are multiple components to developing at the city standard. It would include the subbase as well as the final wear course. So I do know that was some discussion, but certainly, without having, any more detailed analysis than that, I can't give you a more detailed answer than that, other than say that the applicant was aware of what the city standard requirements were, and that engineering did take a look at that. And I don't want to speak, I know we have staff in the audience that could potentially speak to that, but I don't want to speak on behalf of them either. But
Okay, and I had two more questions, but they're for the developer, so I'll just wait until developer comes up.
By paving this road, is it similar to every other asphalt paving job that the city requires a permit? So
Yes.
therefore, it was permitted to be paved, so the city will actually have to go out there, inspect the job, verify it, and approve the permit. Well, the permit's already been approved, but finalize the permit, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Any other commissioners have any questions? Thanks, Mark. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Hi there, I'm Todd Chandler with Great River Engineering, 186 South Payne Stewart Drive. As far as the road, that's a private road, so the condo association will be overall the maintenance for that roadway. It is built to city standards, with the exception that no right-of-way was donated for the construction of the roadway. So that's basically on private property. Branson Villas has provided access to that road via access easement. So there is joint ownership of that road and maintenance agreements, and those are all spelled out in the condo declarations. Whether they get followed, that's dependent on the condo associations and the board. That's what they get, that's what their responsibilities are for both utilities, roadway, maintenance of the roadway, snow clearing, I think even lawn care too. That's all covered in the condo deck. And that's always submitted with any condo development. So the condo declarations are always submitted with the condo plat, which is the next process that we'll go through, and the condo decks will be submitted as part of that process too. So hopefully that kind of clarifies how the development will proceed.
Okay, Mr. Chandler, just a couple of questions because of the concerns we had from the property owners that came to speak at the last planning and zoning meeting. Have you met with, or has anyone with the project met with the property owners since they came with all the questions so that their questions could be answered?
I am not aware if Mr. Still has done that as far as representing Casey Hospitality. I know he has been working with the board president. He probably has not gone in front of each of the property owners.
So there's a board for the COA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for the villas of Branson Hills, yeah.
Okay,
And that's how they were able to get this street paved, because there was cost associated from that development as well.
okay.
So, yep.
And then it just seemed like there was a little bit of confusion. I was a little bit confused too. I got a copy of the ingress-egress easement agreement for villas at Branson Hills, COA. So is it possible for you to show on the map approximately what this agreement covers for that condo? Because
Yeah.
I know it's broken down a little bit, and
Yeah, so if you look on the lower end of that exhibit, you'll see the dashed line. That represents what that legal description presents.
so it goes all the way down to almost the end?
Yep, and it's, I believe it's a 40-foot easement, access easement. So that would be basically that southern property line that basically it's a 40-foot offset of that line that provides access to the neighboring developments.
So they're responsible for the majority of the maintenance?
It's split between the various condo association, and that's spelled out in the condo declarations.
Okay, so there's two
I think
easements recorded?
there's there's an easement to each one of the developments, one being Stillwood, and then one being Branson Villas, the Branson Hills Villas.
Okay, and so Branson Hills Villa, part of that's Ruda Villa, and there's another one, I think, that's
I don't know if Ruda, did you say Ruda?
Rue, R-U-E?
Oh, I don't,
Rue, yeah, that's where the people,
Okay,
the
yeah.
majority of the people that came,
Yeah.
they lived in the Rue de Ville, I believe that's the name of
Okay.
the street, and they had questions regarding maintenance
okay,
because they were
yeah.
unclear.
So I think that's the villas at Branson Hills. That's that condo development,
Okay, so they're responsible for all that.
a portion of it, because they have access to that road, so does Stillwood, and so will Stillwood East. So that's where it's spelled out. It's a conglomeration. It's not a city street. It's not on one developer either.
Right.
Because it's, I don't know if there's actual agreement between all three entities.
I only found one.
Yeah.
And everyone accesses on Lake Hills Drive?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, Stillwood can actually access the south side of their development from, I believe, maybe Town and Country. I think that's the road down there. But it has two access points. Bird Road, sorry. Yeah, off of Bird Road. So it has two access points, one being from the south off Bird Road and one off of Lake Hills.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Questions from the commissioners?
I guess I had one more question. When you were talking about,
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you use the microphone?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
When you were talking about the two subdivisions that are there, I don't know what their names are, I'm sorry. But the two subdivisions are the two condo divisions that are there. They're the ones that are providing the maintenance, correct? But
They're 2/3 of the maintenance. The other
Two-thirds, okay.
third will
All
be
right.
the Stillwood East
They're not paying
development.
for the new, I got you. Okay,
Yeah, and I think there was an agreement between the developer with Casey Hospitality and the board president with the condos, the existing condo association, which is the villas at Branson Hills. Because I know that Mark still didn't foot the bill for all of it. I don't know what percentage was, how it was split up. I didn't get into the accounting side of it. I've got enough to worry about on the engineering side.
Any other commissioners? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now is an opportunity for public comment. Do we have any comments from the public on this? If so, please come down, fill out the sheet located at the podium. We'd appreciate it if you write legibly. Before your comment, please state your name and address for the record. There will be a 5-minute time limit.
Thank you. My name is Don Schrog. I am currently the president of the board at Stillwood, the Stillwood condo development. And Clyde Still developed our particular condo, and there's like 43 homes there. And his son, Jason, he turned it over to us now. We own it. But he also told me that we have a lifetime easement to use that road down to the parkway. And we do not and have not ever paid anything for that road. And the only other complaint we have at Stillwood is that Mark is doing another development below us, and that's fine. But there's a piece of property that is his, and there's weeds this tall, and we've been looking at that for 6 years. And he does mow it down, but he told me 2 years ago that he was going to landscape and take care of that, but he hasn't done anything. And you know what? Our development is very beautiful. It's very nice. But when we have guests come over and they go to our back deck and overlook the new development, and they see all those weeds, say, what in the world is that? It's a disgrace. And we're tired of looking at it. Thank you.
Any other members from the public wish to speak on this particular item? Any other questions from the public?
I'm sorry, could you use the microphone,
Could you walk
please?
back down, sir?
Thank you.
We are wondering, where is the entrance off of Lake Hills? Where is that entrance to this new development?
Mark, Mark or development?
So the answer to your question, without having the exhibit behind me, would be where the existing construction access road is that goes over the hill and down. It's kind of rough graded for a roadway already. So let's see, it's going to be roughly right in that area, right where the cursor is. And that'll be directly off of Lake Hills Drive. You can see the road is rough graded out there right now. So, yep.
Any other questions from the commissioners? The public? Hearing none, I'll close the discussion. We'll entertain a motion to approve the final subdivision plat for Stillwood East. Okay, motion by Commissioner O'Day. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gore. Now call for a vote.
Commissioner Richards?
Yes.
Alderperson Denham?
Abstain.
You're abstaining?
Yes, I had one question, but I wasn't able to ask my
Did I
last
miss you?
Well, it was my understanding that there's supposed to be an agreement for us to be able to, that be part of the approval, that it wouldn't be sent to Board of Aldermen until the road issue was taken care of. That's my understanding from discussions regarding this project. I have no problem with approving it, but I didn't hear that stipulation or see that in writing regarding this final plat, that until the concerns with the road was taken care of, unless there's been new information after that.
Okay, I thought the road was taken care of. That's why they took care of that. Is the road taken care of, Mark?
The paving of the road is taken care of. As far as what Alderwoman Denham is referring to, I believe she's referring to like a joint agreement between the condo associations as far as future maintenance of that roadway. I don't know, we'd really have to get a legal interpretation of all three sets of condo declarations to see if there's, I don't know if the declarations have a split ownership of who pays what, kind of like utility bills, like, you know, that when you buy a condo, for instance, you know that you're responsible for a fraction of whatever the overall utility bill is for the condo. Whether each of that has been spelled out, I'm not sure. I think that's coming with the condo declarations.
Okay.
For,
And maybe, I mean, I may be off, but that's just what I'd heard before. I didn't know if what took place today covered what was supposed to be decided, you know, what the concern was.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about that, but I'll change, I'll go ahead and vote yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Continuing the motion to approve the resolution, a request for a final subdivision plat for Stillwood East. Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Hillis?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Day?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinoski?
Yes.
Chairperson Groman?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Dieger?
Yes.
Commissioner Gore?
Yes.
9 votes yea, 0 nay. Motion carried.
The second item on the public hearing is a request to vacate a portion of sunset land in the Pinkley Heights addition to Branson, Missouri 65616. Can I get a motion to bring this to the table?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Yeager and second by Mr. O'Day, Commissioner O'Day. Would the staff like to provide additional information on this item?
Thank you, Chairman, I would. So as you had mentioned, this is a consideration for a vacation of a right-of-way. This is located at 701 Kingsway Drive. The applicant owner is Kara McKay of McKay Surveying LLC on behalf of Lewis and Raleigh Chagoya. The owner acknowledgements were all received by all owners abutting the right-of-way to be vacated. And I'll highlight more details about that in a moment. The particular adjacent zoning within this area is low-density residential, and it is the applicant's request to vacate a portion of a 50-foot right-of-way, 293 feet in length, of Sunset Lane in the Pinkley Heights addition within the city. And here is the layout of where that particular right-of-way lies. If you draw your attention to the bolded area within the center of this particular plat, you can see that there are two properties just to the west of this right-of-way and then one property to the east. The applicant happens to be the property owner that is the entirety of the eastern side, or excuse me, the western side of this particular right-of-way. Providing additional context, with any vacation of a street right-of-way, the vacation would then require that all abutting landowners receive 50% of the balance of the particular area located within the street area. So how this would potentially play out is that the center line of this right-of-way would cut a portion of the property to go to the west and the portion of the property based on the subsequent length to the east, the two properties to the east. This, as you can see, this particular property is just off of 65, close to the downtown of the city. You can see a zoomed in area of this, where this is just off of, is that South, is that 5th Street? Excuse me. And similar to the previous request, as required, we did put a public notice out. We had postcards sent within 185 feet of this particular location to allow people to be able to provide public comment at this time. And to highlight the vacation of a right-of-way is highlighted within the city code. Vacation is whenever any street, alley, or public right-of-way is vacated by an official action of the board, and the zoning districts of joining each side of the such street, alley, or public right-of-way shall be automatically extended to the center of such vacation, and that all the areas of vacation shall then be subject to all the regulations extended within this particular district. And as I mentioned to start this particular item, we had, the applicant had provided all the necessary paperwork and letters from all the abutting property owners, all the neighboring utility providers. And as you can see in this list, the City Utilities Department, Missouri American Water, Altus, the Liberty Utilities, Summit Natural Gas, as well as Optimum, are all the utility providers in this particular area, and none of them had provided any objections to this vacation. As you could understand, if any utility provider would have an objection, they would have any utilities in that area that would have an adverse effect by right-of-way, they would have an opportunity to provide an objection at this time. But since there are none, you know, we have an opportunity to look at this and it be fairly clean. But when you're looking at this particular layout, you're looking at the property, the butter to the left or to the west is the property applicant, and then the orangish red area is the vacation of the right-of-way within the center of this particular diagram. And as you can see, there aren't any utilities, any water, sewer, gas, et cetera, within this right-of-way location. The zoning for this particular area is the low-density residential area that I highlighted at the beginning, and it does extend and remain the same. And as I highlighted, the terms of the vacation is that then the low-density residential district would be extended both from the west and from the east to allow this entirety of this area to be within low-density residential district going forward. This particular property, there is one property that is vacant. However, that's not quite accurate because it has been added to the single-family house just to the east. So that you see this gray square. That actually is part of the low-density residential area, as well as the subject property and the abutter just to the south or to the east of the right-of-way. They will all remain low-density residential. Again, we're going to see a couple of diagrams of how it looks from the orthos. This is from the north, from the west, from the south, from the east, and hopefully you can see from each one of these diagrams there is nothing within that particular right-of-way that would cause any concerns. The existing conditions of the right-of-way itself is a vacant drive. It is not currently used for access for any of the properties, Each one of the three primary properties that abut this area have their own individual access, so no properties will actually become landlocked due to this vacation consideration. As you can see within the 2030 plan, the location of where this is the low-density residential district, so there's clearly no concerns when it comes to that. So with all that saying, with no known objections to this, staff is recommending approval of this vacation.
Is the applicant here? Would you like to speak, sir? Do you have anything? Would you like to speak? You don't have to, but I mean, if you'd like to, you sure may.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for this time and everything. This whole thing came up because I was trying to build a garage on the property. When I bought it a couple of years ago, it didn't have anything like that, so I kept coming up to, I guess, dead ends, and this was the best solution that was offered for me to do, to go this route, to get that vacated, because not only the easement there, it also has a 25-foot setback that ended up right in front of the house. I couldn't even put up a carport, so I was kind of put to this situation here. So I appreciate the time you guys are all taking to look at this for me, and that's really all I got to say.
Any
Thanks a lot.
commissioners have any questions of the applicant while he's up there? Anybody? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the commissioners at all? If there aren't any other questions or comments, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we'll open it up for vote. Do I have I guess I better read it, just my first night. So, hearing none, I will close the discussion, entertain a motion to approve request to vacate a portion of Sunset Land in the Pinkley Heights addition. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
First by Commissioner Denham, second by Commissioner Dieger. Now call for vote.
Commissioner Richards?
Yes.
Alderperson Denham?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Hillis?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Day?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinoski?
Yes.
Chairperson Groman?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Dieger?
Yes.
Commissioner Gore?
Yes.
We have 9 votes yay, motion carried.
We're going to have a public hearing on a request for municipal code amendments to Chapter 1 definitions and Chapter 94 zoning of the Branson Municipal Code concerning marijuana. That's the third item on our agenda. Can I get a motion to bring this item to the table?
Motion.
Second.
First by Commissioner Dieger and second by Commissioner O'Day. Does staff like to provide additional information on this item? I don't know what I'd do if you said no.
Thank you, Chairman. No, I would like to provide additional context, so thank you for the opportunity. Actually, this is provided to us for the, because of a thing that was done on November the 8th of 2022. The state legislature actually approved Amendment 3 to the state constitution to allow for recreational marijuana sales. That was set to begin and has begun on February the 6th of 2023. So the Branson municipal and other city codes has proposed changes. As you may have been paying attention, there were already some items that were taken to the Board of Aldermen for consideration relating to the criminal code. But this particular item would have to obviously go before the city's Planning and Zoning Commission to deal with anything related to the zoning ordinance. Because Amendment 3 does provide key land use changes that are now allowable by right that are not specifically defined within the current city zoning ordinance. We're looking to extend this zoning amendment to take care of all the language that is provided in Amendment 3. Those changes include essentially 3 different sections. The first section would be under Chapter 1 of the city's zoning, or excuse me, not zoning, Chapter 1 of the city code, which would be under general provisions. And actually, subsection 2 would actually be the definitions section. We'll also provide slightly more context in a moment, as well as there would be 2 pieces underneath of Chapter 94 of the zoning ordinance. Because there are 2 now changes to Chapter 94, this was properly notified in the newspaper to provide an opportunity for public to provide any comment at this particular meeting. Whereas, interestingly, Chapter 1 does not require that. However, because they're linked, it was important to provide them and present those together in aggregate. So, as I mentioned, the first section would be to modify Section 1.2, the definitions and rules of construction of Chapter 1 of the City Code. And then the second piece would be to replace Table 60.1 of Chapter 94 in its entirety. And I'll provide context as to why that is in a moment. And the third piece would be then to update Section 61-11, and specifically subsection E within Chapter 94, to allow the additional terms of use for this particular items that are required by Amendment 3. So just to kind of hit the highlights, instead of saving you all the pages of the zoning amendment, there are a couple of things to pay attention to. The state constitution does allow for a buffering that would basically have a spacing between any of these marijuana-related facilities and specific types of land use. So actually, the language you're seeing here does specifically come right out of the state constitution, a buffer of at least 1,000 feet between schools, churches, daycares, and any marijuana-related facilities. This actual 1,000 feet is not actually in geographic distance. It's actually measured by the shortest legal walking path. So there is a little bit of clarification that needs to be required there in case people would have questions with that going forward. And again, this is something that was actually allowing just the non-medical related marijuana uses. This is something that's already within the code that allows these buffering for medical marijuana related facilities within the code now. So it's not any different than what we already have. The new the new land uses are actually introduced in Amendment 3 are now all addressed within subsection E11 of the zoning ordinance amendment, as well as adding those land uses into the table of uses, which is section 60.1 of chapter 94. Staff has placed all those zoning codes to line up with the similar medical marijuana uses that were already within the code. Subsection E11 of section 94-61 better outlines the requirements for, quote, marijuana facilities and marijuana dispensary facilities instead of previously what was allowed as medical marijuana facilities and medical dispensary facilities. This better aligns with the language now allowable within the amendment. And all of these particular marijuana facilities and all their specific items are now identified within these zoning districts that were previously allowed for medical marijuana facilities. For example, a dispensary is now allowed within community commercial, which is not any different than medical marijuana dispensaries now. Other key points to highlight is that there was a revamp in the zoning, the revamping in the definitions. And because there are multiple places within the city code that references marijuana, instead of putting these definitions directly in chapter 94, we put that now in chapter 1 that now allows all these all these specific definitions to align with what the state constitution defines. And those include a comprehensive facility, a comprehensive marijuana cultivation facility, a comprehensive marijuana dispensary facility, a comprehensive marijuana infused products manufacturing facility, in an enclosed locked facility, a marijuana dispensary, marijuana facility, a micro-business dispensary facility, and a micro-business wholesale facility. And again, every single one of these land uses now in the amendments that includes not only the table of land uses, but also the specific subsection to define how these are all defined. One other piece that was needed to be amended within the definitions is the definition of a church, as well as amending the definition of a daycare. Although church was within a definition of the ordinance, daycare was not. So as I mentioned previously, with the amendment allowing there to be a distance between schools, churches, and daycares, those particular definitions needed to be cleaned up to better align with what the state constitution requires. And with that said, I'd be more than happy to provide any more context, but literally this is just to comply with what the state constitution in Amendment 3 that was passed and just better be in compliance with what is already allowable as a constitutional right within the state. So staff is recommending the approval of the resolution, which would recommend the amendments to the zoning code as well as the Chapter 1 definitions to go to the board or alderman and ultimately be amending those particular pieces of the city code.
Any of the commissioners have any questions? Any members of the public have any questions or want to make any comments? Hearing none, I'll close the discussion and entertain a motion to approve a request for municipal code amendments to Chapter 1 definitions and Chapter 94 zoning of the Branson Municipal Code concerning marijuana.
I so move.
Okay. Second. First by Commissioner Martinowski and second by Commissioner Gore. I'll now call for vote.
Commissioner Richards?
Yes.
Alderperson Denham?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Hillis?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Day?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinoski?
Yes.
Chairperson Groman?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Dieger?
Yes.
Commissioner Gore?
Yes.
We have 9 votes yea, 0 nay. Motion carried.
This concludes the public hearing on tonight's agenda, and now we'll move on to the reports. Mark, do you have a report for the commission?
I do. Thank you, Chairman. There are several items that I wanted to alert you to that could come to you as early as your next month's meeting. I don't want to steal any of your thunder, but I do want to highlight that the typical first Tuesday meeting date in July will actually not be our meeting date. I know that you all are aware of that, but just to highlight, particularly for the benefit of the public, that meeting has moved from July the 4th to July the 6th because of the holiday. So I hope everybody enjoys their Independence Day holiday. But there are several items that will potentially come to you for your July the 6th meeting. And I just want to highlight just a couple of them. So one of them I was asked to float, and one thing that is a good opportunity to do is that staff prior to me becoming director, and Michael was in the audience, so I do want to give a special shout out to him. There was a opportunity to do open for business meetings within the city. This is something that we continue to get rave reports on, where anybody that wants to bring a business or development or anything like that within the city, we can get key city staff into a meeting with anybody and speak to any particular items that they would want to address. And depending upon what level or what stage the applicant is at, they can get critical information to allow them to navigate through the city permitting and approval processes. So it has been tremendously beneficial. I believe that Michael could agree with me on that one. But one of the open for business meetings that we had an applicant that was considering buying a property on the West 76 Country Boulevard corridor. And they had asked to float this idea to the Planning Commission, and that is a potential rezoning of a property on the 76 corridor. As you can see in this particular diagram, this is just a snapshot of the city's zoning map, which is available to anybody on the city's webpage. where, as you can see, all the maroon or dark purple coloring is the entertainment district. And as you can see, the entirety of the 76 corridor in this particular area, as well as the balance going to the west, is within entertainment district of the zoning ordinance. The particular applicant is proposing an item that does not comply with two land uses within the entertainment district of the zoning ordinance. It was suggested to the applicant that a planned development overlay could be considered for this particular property to allow for what they would want to do. However, it was reminded to the applicant that if a PD would be considered for this property, all the underlying zoning, allowable zoning land uses would have to go to the new planned development. So even if a PD was approved for this particular property or site, they would still not be allowed to develop what they want. And I rest assured that we did, as a staff, recommend there are several other sites within the city that would fit this particular land use very well. We continue to make ourselves available to work with applicants to bring high-quality development within the city. However, you know, it was all of staff's recommendation that this is something that we're not supporting, and we told the applicant this just because the entertainment district is the proverbial bread and butter of the city, and it is very important to the city and the future outlook of the city that this district be preserved. But I at least wanted to bring this idea up is, would the Planning Commission be supportive of a zoning change to this particular corridor?
Will that be next time, or do you want to know now?
I'd love to get some input now.
Chuck?
I believe that we, our heart and soul and blood for the city of Branson, and our main purpose of our economy is the entertainment district in 76. And it would be very difficult for me to vote in favor of a zoning change that could restrict the possibility of future tourism attractions or theaters or anything that could continue on the, 50, 60, 70-year history that Branson has of entertaining people from all around the world. So that's my 2 cents.
Anybody else? Ruth?
I firmly respect our entertainment district location. I would not be in favor of doing anything but having what fits into the entertainment district category. There, we really do need to protect that and our residential. I'm real strong on protecting both, so I would not be in favor of that.
Anybody else?
I agree with what they're saying, that
Could you move a little closer to the microphone?
I agree that we need to take a look at this seriously, because the entertainment district is an area that needs to be protected for the city of Branson.
Anybody else? From my perspective, we're spending about $100 million beautifying it and getting it set up for entertainment, and I think that's what it ought to be preserved for, and I would be against it.
I agree.
Okay. Well, thank you for considering that item. I did promise the applicant that I would at least bring that particular item up. But not ending there, we might possibly have another consideration for a change to the zoning ordinance for next month. It was directed by city administration as well as the mayor to direct staff to look at the current ordinances that we have in play within the city to deal with current issues that were brought up at Board of Aldermen meetings. This is something that staff is taking seriously and we're looking at, but there's one thing that was floated was the potential changing of the definitions within the zoning ordinance. I'm not going to get anything more than that, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a snapshot that this might be something that we will look at as early as our July meeting. So I just want to let you know that staff is working on that diligently now, and we will continue to do that.
Did you give us the definition we're updating, or?
Well, one definition that was considered to be updated, and currently, we don't have that language drafted for consideration and provide any details as to what that change would be, but one thing that was considered and specifically addressed to look at is how you define adult entertainment, hence the snapshot on the screen. So that is something that we're looking at currently, so just wanted at least to put that on your radar. And then two other things I wanted to mention, just very, very briefly. Excuse me, three things. As we do have a final plat that is before us. That should be prepared and should be ready for your consideration on Thousand Hills for July. We do have a final plat that should go before you for the Welk Resort properties for next month. And we do have a special use consideration for a property. So there's at least 3 items for your consideration for July, as well as the aforementioned items that I just had highlighted. So there is a lot going on. Certainly it's that time of the year where things are getting busy within the city, and certainly city staff is keeping very busy with doing lots of good things, and we're really happy to see a lot of development moving forward within the city. So that's all I have for you today, unless you have any follow-up questions.
Any questions from the commissioners? Thanks, Mark. Any reports from any of the commissioners? We'll start down at that end. Anybody? Okay, Chuck?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a report. I just felt that while welcoming the 2 new commissioners to the board, I felt it was important to thank ex-Commissioner Rick Davis and Brenda Romine for their years and years of service to the planning and zoning as well as the city of Branson.
Thank you. Any other reports?
Just like food for thought, just to help the developers and our residents in general. It seems to work out so well when some of the developers or applicants have met with surrounding property owners, not required to cross all the Ts and dot all the Is, but to have that communication so that when we do get items that come to planning and zoning or go to Board of Aldermen, those conversations that have already taken place, and I think that that would be something helpful, just putting it out there, just to serve our community better and to serve our developers better.
Thank you. Anybody else? Next item on the agenda would be for adjournment. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the June 6, 2023 Planning Commission meeting.
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Day, and second by Commissioner Martinowski. Now call for vote.
Commissioner Richards?
Yes.
Alderperson Denham?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Hillis?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Day?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinowski?
Yes.
Chairperson Groman?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Dieger?
Yes.
Commissioner Gore?
Yes.
Result of the vote is 9 yea, 0 nay. Motion carried and meeting adjourned at 7:03 PM.
Thank you. Thank you.